Have you ever felt like you're not entirely who you appear to be, like something deeper is moving beneath the surface of your everyday self, quietly stirring? Maybe you've sensed it in the stillness, in the noise behind the silence, or in that strange feeling that people look at you and see something, even if they don't know what it is. That thing unspoken, unshaped, but undeniably there, that's not your imagination. That's the first sign. And maybe, just maybe, it's because you're a dark, chosen one in disguise. We live in a world that teaches us to shrink, to conform, to stay in the light where it's safe, predictable, and familiar. But what if I told you that the real power doesn't live in the light? That the most awakened souls, the ones who carry ancient codes, the ones who shift timelines just by walking into a room, do not come from purity. They come from pain, from chaos, from darkness. And the calling isn't broadcasted loudly. It's whispered. It's coded into the way you feel different, the way you notice too much, the way you can't fully belong no matter how hard you try. You feel it, don't you? That strange pressure in your chest when you pretend to be normal. That inner voice that says, "This isn't it. I'm meant for something else." The first sign that you might be a dark, chosen one in disguise is the sense that you're watching your life unfold from a layer deeper than most people can understand. You're not just here to live a life, you're here to remember something. But you don't know what, and it gnaws at you. You go through the motions, you play the roles, but there's always this haunting feeling that you're not being all of who you really are. That's not confusion. That's a soul in disguise waking up. The disguise isn't fake, it was necessary. It kept you safe, it helped you survive. But now, the disguise is starting to crack, and what lies underneath isn't soft or safe, it's ancient, intense, and powerful beyond words. You've probably felt misunderstood most of your life, like people can't quite get you. You don't fit in boxes. You don't follow the script. You question things too deeply. You see beyond facades. That's the second sign. You're not broken. You're tuned in. You're not weird. You're wired differently. You've got eyes that see through masks and a heart that feels truths people are terrified to admit. You walk into rooms and feel the energy before a single word is spoken. You hear the lies behind the smiles. You sense the wound behind the anger. And it's not because you're overly sensitive. It's because you were built to walk between worlds. You've always been standing at the edge of things, half here, half elsewhere. The third sign is your relationship with darkness itself. You don't fear it the way others do. You've tasted it, sat with it, maybe even drowned in it. But here you are, still breathing. You've been through things that should have shattered you. But instead, they sharpened you. They hollowed you out in places. Yes, but in those emptied places, something else moved in. A presence, a power, a knowing. You didn't just survive your pain, you absorbed it. You started to carry it like armor. And now, when others are falling apart, you're the one who holds the line. Why? Because you've already walked through your personal underworld. Maybe you're still walking, but you do it with your eyes open. You see, most people think darkness is evil, but you know better. Darkness is depth, it's mystery, it's transformation. It's where seeds grow and stars are born. And that's the fourth sign you're starting to reclaim your darkness, not as a weakness, but as a source. You're beginning to understand that true power doesn't come from pretending to be light, it comes from integrating your whole self. That means your rage, your sorrow, your wildness, your desire, your truth, all of it. You stop trying to fix yourself and start listening to the parts of you you've ignored. You stop asking for permission to be intense, deep, emotional, or silent. You stop playing small, because something inside you is remembering who you are. The fifth sign is found in the friction, the way life tests you, the betrayals, the losses, the patterns that keep repeating until you finally see the lesson. You're not cursed. You're being forged. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every failure wasn't a punishment, it was an initiation. It was your soul stripping away illusion, tearing down everything you thought you were so that your real self could emerge. And that real self, it's not soft, it's not easy, it's not cute. It's fierce, it's silent, it's unapologetic. It's the one who doesn't need followers, fame, or filters. It's the one who carries an ancient strength, a divine fire that doesn't burn, it transforms. The sixth sign is how people respond to you without knowing why. They're drawn to you, or they're intimidated by you, or both. There's something in your presence they can't name. They feel safe but also seen. And being seen can be terrifying when you're hiding from yourself. That's why some people try to dim you. They project onto you. They misunderstand you. But it's not personal, it's energetic. Light reveals. Darkness reveals more. You are a mirror, and mirrors can be confronting. And finally, the seventh sign. You've had moments, maybe only seconds, where you remembered. Where the veil lifted. Where your body, your soul, your mind aligned for just long enough to feel it that you are more than human. That you are part of something immense, cosmic, and ancient. That you are here not to follow, but to lead. Not in the usual way, not with ego, but through frequency, through truth, through presence. And when you felt it, even for a moment, you knew, this is who I really am. And then it faded, but it left something behind, a seed that's been growing ever since. So I ask you, and I want you to really feel this, what if your entire life has been leading up to the moment you stop hiding? What if you were never meant to fit in but to awaken others by being who you actually are? You can sense it, can't you? Everyone else can too. Because no matter how much you hide, your energy doesn't lie. You're a dark chosen one in disguise. But the disguise is thinning, and this is only the beginning.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
There is a moment in every dark chosen one's journey when the mask begins to slip, not because you want it to, but because the weight of pretending becomes unbearable. You're no longer able to fake smiles, to tolerate shallow conversations, or to participate in roles that drain your spirit. It's not a rebellion. It's a revelation. And soon the world starts to feel the shift. You may not say anything out loud, but your energy changes. Your presence deepens. There's something in the way you look at people, in the way you pause before speaking, in the way you no longer chase what once consumed you. And the world? The world responds, but not always in the way you expect. See, the unveiling this sacred emergence of your true self is not met with celebration. Often, it's met with resistance. People around you begin to act differently. Some grow distant. Others grow defensive. You say less, but your silence becomes louder than before. You stop seeking validation, and suddenly those who depended on your insecurity feel threatened. You no longer ask for permission, and the ones who benefited from your doubts begin to shrink away. Why? Because without even trying, you've become a mirror. And not everyone is ready to face what they see reflected back. This is where the real test begins. Because when the world starts reacting to your truth, you're tempted to go back, to shrink, to soften your edges, to explain yourself. But deep inside, you know you can't go back. You've already seen too much, felt too much, remembered too much. You try to unsee it. You try to silence the voice inside you that says, this is who you are now. But it's too late. Something ancient has awakened. It's not going to sleep again. The unveiling isn't just about what the world sees, it's about what you see. You begin to notice the roles you were playing, the masks you wore to survive. You begin to see the ways you diluted your truth to keep the peace, to stay likable, to avoid conflict. And now, you can't do it anymore. You realize that every time you said yes when you meant no, a little part of you died. Every time you held in your truth to protect someone else's comfort, your soul dimmed. And now, your soul is done dimming. But let's get honest, this part of the path is lonely. Not because you're truly alone, but because few are willing to stand this naked in their truth. You start to crave depth like oxygen. You can't tolerate superficiality anymore. You look around and wonder, is anyone else feeling this? Does anyone else see what I see? And that question, it echoes in the hearts of every dark chosen one. Because we've all been there. The space between the old self and the true self. The space where you're no longer asleep, but not yet fully embodied. It's the void, and the void is sacred. In this void, you are stripped of distractions. You're forced to sit with yourself, with your wounds, with your power. And power, real power, is terrifying at first, because it demands responsibility. You realize that your presence affects people, that your words can pierce or heal, that your energy is not neutral, it moves things, shifts things. You begin to understand that your mere existence is a disruption to systems built on lies. And the question becomes, will you keep hiding because it's easier, or will you step into the storm you were born to walk through? Let me ask you something raw and real. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there's no role to play, no mask to wear, no one to impress? That version of you, the silent one, the wild one, the one who feels the stars pulsing in your bones, that's the real you. That's the one the world is waiting for. But the world doesn't know how to ask for it. It only knows how to reject or revere. And you must be ready for both. Because when you start living from your essence, you'll find yourself in a strange paradox. Some people will be magnetized to you. They'll feel something ancient in your gaze. They'll listen when you speak, even if you say little. They'll trust you without knowing why. And others, they'll be repelled. They'll challenge you, mock you, try to reduce you to something they can explain. But don't take it personally. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the part of themselves they're not ready to face. You just happen to trigger it. And this is where your strength is tested, not in how loud you can be, but in how still you can remain. Not in how many followers you have, but in how deeply rooted you are in your truth. Because a dark chosen one doesn't lead from the front. They lead from the center, the still point of chaos. They don't need to be seen to be felt. They don't need to be heard to be known. They simply are. And in that being, they shift everything. So I'll ask you again, not as a challenge, but as an invitation, what would happen if you stopped hiding? What would happen if you let the disguise fall, even for a day? Who would you become if you trusted that your presence alone is enough? Because the world already feels it. Everyone does. You're not invisible. You're unfolding. And your unveiling is not the end, it's the beginning of your return. Pain is a way of making us forget who we are. It clouds the vision, distorts the message, and makes us doubt the very truth we once felt so deeply. But what if the pain isn't a punishment? What if it's your preparation? What if the very struggles you keep trying to escape are the sacred fires burning away the false layers so that your true self can finally emerge? We don't talk about this enough. The world teaches us to avoid pain, numb it, push it down, or mask it with distractions. But every dark chosen one learns this one truth the hard way. Pain is the portal. There's a certain kind of suffering that's not random. You know it because it circles back. It repeats. It shows up in different faces, different jobs, different relationships, but the same feeling echoes through it all. Emptiness, frustration, a sense that something is off. That's not bad luck. That's sacred friction. That's your soul trying to get your attention. It's the universe whispering, you weren't meant to live like this. There's something inside you that hasn't been claimed yet. And until you claim it, the cycles will continue. Not to torment you, but to awaken you. Every wound you carry holds a hidden key, the betrayal that broke you. It taught you where your boundaries were buried. The rejection that shattered your heart. It revealed where you were still outsourcing your worth. The failure that made you question everything. It was never about the outcome, it was about the rebirth. And as brutal as it feels, you are not being destroyed. You're being initiated. You're not falling apart. You're being sculpted into something that can hold the weight of the power you were born to carry. This is why so many dark chosen ones are forged in isolation. You're pulled away from the noise. People leave. Opportunities dissolve. You're forced to sit in silence, to meet yourself without the applause or distractions. It feels cruel, but it's divine design. Because in that silence, you start to hear the voice that was always there. The voice beneath your conditioning. The voice that doesn't speak in fear, but in fire. It tells you you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become because of it. But becoming isn't passive. It's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance inside it, to rise in the middle of the wreckage, to breathe even when the world feels like it's collapsing. That's what makes you different. You've been there. You've touched the bottom. And instead of staying broken, you started building, piece by piece, day by day, quietly, silently, without needing anyone to notice. That's sacred. That's powerful. That's proof. And here's the twist. The more you rise, the more resistance you'll face. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right. The systems you once lived in were built around your silence. The people who once depended on your weakness will feel threatened by your strength. And the version of you that was addicted to being liked will beg you to stop. But you can't. Not anymore. Because now you know your life isn't just about survival. It's about legacy. The friction is part of the path. It's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're activating. When you start to embody your truth, everything not aligned with it will fall away. Let it. Let the old versions of you grieve. Let the outdated relationships fade. Let the comfortable illusions crumble. You're not here to be comfortable. You're here to be true. And truth, real, embodied truth, isn't easy. It's earned. You earn it by walking through the fire without pretending it doesn't burn. You earn it by choosing integrity over approval. You earn it by sitting with your pain long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you. And when you do that, something shifts. You stop seeing your struggles as obstacles. You start seeing them as oracles. Every wound becomes wisdom. Every scar becomes scripture. And your life becomes a mirror for others to remember what they too are capable of. So let me ask you, not gently but clearly, what if you stopped resisting the friction and started listening to it? What if the thing you think is breaking you is actually birthing you? What if your pain is not the end of your story, but the place your true story begins? You are not weak for struggling. You are not lost because you're questioning. You are not broken because you feel too much. You are becoming. And everything you've been through is preparing you to hold the magnitude of what you're meant to carry. This is not the part where you give up. This is the part where you rise. There comes a moment after the fire, after the unveiling, after the sacred friction has done its work, when you're no longer waiting for something outside you to prove who you are. You stop seeking signs. You stop asking for permission. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand. Because now, you remember, not intellectually, not spiritually, but viscerally. You remember what it feels like to be whole, not perfect whole. And in that wholeness you become something rare, someone who lives their truth out loud, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or misunderstood. This is the final activation. It's when you no longer carry your truth like a secret, but like a frequency. You don't need to preach. You are the sermon. Your presence speaks before your words do. Your energy transmits what your voice never could. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere not because you try, but because you've become. You've integrated the dark and the light, the broken and the bold, the pain and the purpose. And that integration, that's power. That's the rarest force on earth. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that liberates. Living as the embodied truth others are afraid to be means you'll be alone sometimes. Not lonely, but solitary. There will be moments where you see through illusions so clearly it hurts. Moments where you feel the world's chaos pressing against your peace. Moments where people look at you and project their fears, because they see in you what they're still suppressing in themselves. But you won't flinch. because now you understand. You become a lighthouse. And lighthouses aren't meant to chase ships, they're built to stand. You'll notice that you no longer react to the same things. The drama that once pulled you in now feels hollow. The validation you used to crave now feels unnecessary. You don't argue with people who misunderstand you. You don't try to convince those who can't see you. You bless them and keep moving, because you know now that your truth is not for everyone. It's for those who are ready, and the ones who are meant to find you will. But here's the part most people miss. This level of embodiment doesn't make you better than others. It makes you more responsible. You become a guardian of truth, a keeper of frequency. Your life becomes a transmission. So you move with more intention. You speak with more clarity. You love with more depth. Not because you have to, but because you can. You've cleared enough of your own noise to finally hear. You've healed enough of your own wounds to finally hold. And now you carry something sacred not in your hands, but in your being. And there's no going back. Once you've become what you were pretending not to be, the mask doesn't fit anymore. The old roles feel suffocating. The old environments feel foreign. You're not better, you're just different. You vibrate at a frequency that demands authenticity, depth, and presence. And anything that doesn't match that, it falls away, effortlessly, naturally. Because now, your life is not about chasing, it's about aligning. It's about walking as a living invitation for others to rise. So let me ask you one final time, not as a guru, not as a creator, but as someone who has walked this path beside you. What would it look like if you stopped dimming the divine storm inside you? What kind of world could you build? Not if you were more like them, but if you were fully you, raw, radiant, and unapologetically real. Because the truth is, you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to awaken others just by existing. And now that you've remembered who you are, the only question left is, will you live it? The world is waiting. Not for another voice in the noise, but for a presence so rooted, so real, so true, that it becomes impossible to ignore. You are that presence. You are the dark chosen one, and your time is now.